Alright YouTube, we're back in the garage again with the Trans Am, where I talked about next video we're going to start dismantling this thing and see what we got picked apart in here. But I need to change on that because I think we need to keep it a roller for now, because I got to be able to push it in and out of the garage to deal with the dismantling of the donor car. And the donor car has been a little bit of a nuisance in the garage, keeping us from having enough work area to dive into this one. And as much as this is going to have to go in and out for different parts of the procedures, I think the best thing to do would be to introduce the donor car. So let's get right into that. So here's the donor car. It's a 2017 Camaro SS 1LE. She's got all the goodies. I picked this up out of auction. Got a pretty good deal on it. It's got 40,000 miles on it. I believe it's a 6-speed manual. As most of the 1LEs, they only come with a manual. It's a LT1 5th gen with direct port injection. Also has magnetic ride, Brembo brakes. It's got the upgraded cooling system with the transmission rear end and oil cooler, engine oil cooler upgrade package. Had an aero package. It's got the Recaro seats. She's a pretty nice unit. She runs pretty good. We'll do a nice little cold start for you. Get a little peek under, mind the noise. She's pretty dusty and dirty from sitting on the auction lot for a while. But yeah, let me give you the cold start to this one. As you can tell from the accident, it of course has popped all the airbags, and a nice manual transmission with short throw shifter. Let's see what she does. The beast. And what we're planning on doing is, as well as the engine and transmission, basically everything in this car is going to go into that car. I'm talking about the suspension, the rear end. It's got limited slip, electronic limited slip. It also has a few things that we'll be able to retain, like airbags and stuff like that, all going into the old car. I want to keep the suspension, of course, because of the magnetic ride, and the dual mode exhaust is pretty nice. I think she'll be a good addition to making the old Trans Am modern. Believe it or not, these dashes between the A-pillars, this one comes a little further, but when you put it up to the transmission and measure it up, you end up with something that fits real nice, actually. It'll need a little bit of a filler panel around the front dash and stuff like that. The center console should mount in with not too much problem. The seats are going to go with the side bolstering, and the Camaros with the Recaro seats are quite amazing. Very comfy. And I think we'll just move around to the back and take a look at a little bit more what we got for damage type. Don't mind the F16. As you can see from the front end damage, that there's probably a little bit more power than whoever owned this car could handle, and it's not going to buff out. Sorry, that's okay. This is pretty much the only affected area. The rest of the car pretty much pristine. There's very little frame damage to the car, and mostly cosmetic. Guy could probably fix this car in a weekend or two. Wouldn't be that bad. On the upside though, everything's intact. The wiring didn't even get munched. It broke off a couple connectors at the inside of the source, but when we pull all this apart, all this wiring, everything has to go into the Trans Am. So we'll have to label everything and probably have to replace a couple coolers. This is a radiator. It actually has 3 radiators. There's the main big one, then there's 2 little ones that sit about here on each side. And that's your oil, transmission, diff cooler there. Oh, there's a separate diff cooler in the back. Just pushed up a little bit on the side here, but didn't seem to affect most of it. It drove, in fact, drove it right in here when we first got it. And looking down the side of the car, there we go. Looking down the side of the car, you can see she's pretty straight still. Nothing was affected. There's not even a scratch on it really back from about here back. There's nothing. But the trunk opened to that battery charger on it. Battery's been dead for a while. Replace that, put a new fresh battery on there and having her deal. But I think even the mirrors will work on the Trans Am. A little bit of modification there. Gotta take the glass out of this. And I also have ordered a gantry so I can lift the car, because as you know, the engines come off the bottom, which is good. We need the entire K-member and everything out of it to mount to the Trans Am, as well as the rear end. That all has to come out of there. We'll have to build location points to mount the rear end to it and suspension underneath there. So, like I said, it's a monstrous project to do in a garage, and I think we'll get it there. It's going to take a while, a lot of persistence. Some things we'll have to overcome. One of the big things is you'll notice that the shock towers on the front suspension of the Camaro are way higher. In fact, they're probably 4 inches taller than the hood of the car on the Trans Am. It's a much lower car and a smaller body profile overall. So what I'm thinking we could do is add a 3-inch drop spring to the spindle and bring that shock tower height down. So when we build shock towers into the Trans Am, we'll have back to a normal ride on it. Because like I said, I do want to keep the magnetic ride suspension. I think it would be an interesting thing to have with the Trans Am. Other things we want to do, of course, all the rage is a wide body kit for the Trans Am, and that we'll have to figure out a way to fabricate. There's several ways people like to do them. I'd like it all steel, but fabricating steel and making it the same side to side might be a little bit over my pay grade. But we'll see what that comes to when we get there. We're going to do most of the mechanical stuff first. Like I said, taking this car apart, labeling everything, because it'll be several months before it gets back put in, starts going back into the Trans Am. In the coming weeks, when we hope to get the gantry crane and we can start hoisting things up and dropping things out, like everything, even the window regulators, we've got to adapt and modify to go in there. That's going to be a challenging deal, as well as the windshield wiper motor and that situation in converting that to make it work with the Trans Am. It'll be interesting things to try to overcome. Most of it, I think, will be straightforward. I'm less worried about putting the engine in it and the rear end suspension and making all that work than trying to make the doors work where the windows drop when you open them and then go back up when you close it. That little feature there, I know they're just a set point, but you're gonna have to use the regulators and all that stuff in that car. They don't have the same range as it, so it'll be, I just don't know, we'll have to figure it out when we get there. Next part to that I think would be more challenging is the windshield wipers and getting those to work properly in there. Adapting that. Even the trunk popping, that not so hard. If we get the trunk to open up with the key fob on the Trans Am. Other things with the Trans Am is, like the 80s model car and all the ground fixtures look like they're just glued on to the sides of it, and effectively that's what they are. I'd like to smooth everything out, mold everything in there, make it where there's no seams on anything from the front clip all the way down. Even the front clip is like a urethane and it's kind of flimsy and moves around. I want to change that out for like a fiberglass front piece and stiffen that up and then mold it into the whole front clip of the car, so it's one continuous piece as much as we can do, except for like the doors and the hood and the trunk lid. Those will be big projects, and the bodywork I think is going to be the biggest part of it for me, because the bodywork's not my bodywork's not my like forte per se.
So here, after disconnecting the battery, you move the seats. Before that, you have to move the seats forward to get the T50 star bits. And there's only 2 of them holding that. And once you lift the seat, there's a connector for the seat underneath there. You just push the red button forward and then rotate the locking cam. Then to remove the seat belt, there's T50 on the edge of that, but you got to take the plastic piece off of the side of it. There's a Torx T20 on the back and then a Phillips on the front of it. Then there's a connector connecting to the seat movement. And there's a airbag. It's got 2 deals. If you got to, I realized there was a cover over it. You got to slide the cover back. Then it comes off real easy. Then it's just rinse and repeat on the passenger side. There was a zip tie on that one as well. It was holding things. Center console removal, pretty straightforward. Couple bolts in the back, 2 bolts in the front, on each side. the center part of the, around the trim there you gotta push that back with, and it just pops out, and then you lift it up, and then there's another torque screw holding the stick on there. You can see it pops up there. I had the wrong bit. Just slides off. I put the screw back in it to hold it, keep it for later. Plug it from the controls. You can see the yellow airbag module there. That's the main one. It'll have to be reprogrammed and codes cleared on it before it goes back in the new car. Then starting to remove the dash panels. That little trim piece pops off of there. Then there's 2 bolts underneath there, and then that pretty much releases that display. About 8 connectors on the back of it, which are a bit fiddly, but they come apart alright. Screw on that deal and it just pops off. Kind of off frame there's the heads-up display controls for adjusting and brightness and all that. There, I finally got the camera going. That connector was ridiculous. Shot of my ass. I ended up taking the whole switch out of the dash panel. Clips on the backside, and then you can push it back through there. Then that's just taking the little piece of leather trim that connects between there. Before I get too much further after this, we're gonna have to go back and label all the connectors to where they go. Now heater controls. Trying to get that top portion of the dash pad loose. Screws all over the place. About this time I start messing with the glove box and it starts to become a nuisance, and then end up giving up for the day.
So there you go. There's the end of the reveal for this top secret portion of it. There's a few little things I'm going to say that are going to happen on the Trans Am, and I think they're going to be kind of unique that you don't see a lot, or if ever, on a car build. And hopefully you stay tuned for that, and there'll be many more videos coming out in the future. So stick around. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. Leave me a comment if you like what you see. If you don't, tell me that too. That's good. That's all constructive. We'll take it all in and probably just like to the side. All right. Thanks.